सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव। Different cupboards, pick few things and come back. We had for 1 week. That which you have and you know that you have, you don't desire for it. Similarly, that which is my Lord, can there be a desire for it? This is my Lord's expansion. There is no corrupt perception there. The moment I see it other than the Lord as something, as this universe separate from the Lord, from the divinity, I look at that world and I want that world for myself. I run. I don't want, I still run. Run away from it, run for it. कोलू के बैल की तरह घूमते रहते हैं, घूमते रहते हैं, घूमते रहते हैं. You know what is कोलू का बैल, right? In the olden days when we didn't have this hydraulic press and machines to extract oil from these oil seeds, the oil seeds were put in a kind of a churning machine made of stone. It was so heavy that they had to use a ox. They would tie it to the back of the ox and the ox would keep rotating. And as it keeps rotating, these seeds would get crushed and the pulp goes one side and the oil drains out to the other side, and it is purified and then sold in the market. Now this ox, probably by the time they purchased it, they have put it into that use. Poor fellow has gotten into that circular movement habit. Even when it is idle, cannot sit idle, keeps going on. Ghumta rahega. Cannot stop. And you ask that ox to stop, and it says, then my astitva, my identity will be lost. Yeah, an ox can say that. Not a human being. So here Shukadev ji explains to Parikshita that in each one of these khanda, there is the 7 khanda that were created. In the Jambu Dvipa, there was Sumati. Then the other Dvipas, there are other sons of Priyavrata. And they started ruling these different continents as though as the service of the Lord himself. And in each one of these Varsha, there is a different deity that is being worshipped. There is a different deity that is in a subtler level, wherein there are the devotees and they have their own world. So people come into the ashram suddenly, sit into the temple, suddenly say, there's a lot of positive feeling in this temple here. Go try this with your wife or your girlfriend. Tell her, your right side looks beautiful, your left side looks ugly. Try it. He'll make both sides of yours ugly. That is for sure. How can we suddenly brand saying that one thing is positive and the other thing is positive? There is nothing in the space that is positive or negative. It is in here, the positivity and negativity. It says every place that is, it has to remind you to that subtler level wherein you interact with it, you have to connect to that divinity. So what is a test whether I am growing spiritually or not? It has been stated in different patterns. When you interact with the world, not getting attached by it, not getting distracted by it, not getting influenced by it, is a growth in spirituality. The same thing said in a different way. Now what are they saying right now? When you interact with the world, if it connects to that divinity, when can it connect to the divinity? When you are not disturbed, distracted or attached to the thing that you are interacting with. There is no personal agenda, you are just interacting and that is connecting you to divinity. Have you ever gone onto your terrace or roof? Sometimes when the AC fails, with the AC failure I go up onto this building. Or when we had to cover all these pigeonholes so that we could have a, what do you call that? Projector, so that the ambience of daylight is not disturbing us. So that at night, you remember, right? You had gone there. That at night when everything was done, got up, and there, from there, look at the vast sky, different stars, and the best sky that I have ever seen is near Mansarovar. Not an inch space vacant, clustered with so many stars, unbelievable stars. And it would not be an exaggeration to say that for every 10-15 minutes there would be a shooting star. And the moment you look at it, there is nothing that which comes into your mind to say that, I need to possess it, I need to have it, I need to hold it, I need to hold it. There is no desire that comes out. All that it connects you to is that peacefulness within. You go to the Grand Canyon. The moment you look at that grand, your mind just freezes, stops. But then are we there in that moment? Because the moment we see it, what is it that comes into our mind? Oh my God, where is my camera? Gone. The moment is lost. So he is trying to explain each place wherein at a grosser level there is this, at a subtler level there is this gods. You may not be able to directly see it, but they exist. Just because you don't see it, they don't cease to exist. Or else your car keys, your glasses, you should have had multiple ones because they would be right there on your table. Right in the morning you are busy, everybody is busy, and then you say, where did my car keys go? I kept it right there. And you have been like, it is right there. But in your conscious effort, it is not yet enlightened. Those of you who wear glasses, have you ever tried to search your glasses while wearing them? I'm sure it must have happened. How foolish, right? Without the glasses, I cannot see. But for a fraction of a second, that clarity that I cannot see without my glasses is lost. And with absolute clear vision, I am searching for my glasses. And somebody has to knock sense into our head. Buddhu, it is right there on your nose. Thank you. So the world is nothing to change here. The world is the same. It is the same earth, it is the same mountains, it is the same skies, it is the same thing everywhere. In and through that same thing, what is it that happens in here when I interact with them? Does it connect to that sense of peace, satisfaction, divinity within? And believe me, I am not just saying it has to be something so specific as a Grand Canyon or Mount Kailash. Wherever you are, do you connect? The moment you interact with the world, do you connect to that divinity within? There is nothing that can be negated. There is nothing that can be thrown away. The Lord himself took a Sukar avatar. Varaha avatar. Varaha, pig, boar. Pig? He didn't mind taking the form as a pig. Why should you mind? There is not a creature, not a thing that can be disliked, hated. Because it is nothing but the form of the Lord. You may not be able to adapt to it. Look at it from a distance, say namaskar and keep going. Why create the impressions of hatred? Thus, having explained in the 19th chapter of the various Bhukhanda, wherein the purpose of this explanation of these Bhukhanda is for only one thing. That all these different expansions of the Lord that are being described, wherever you are, whenever you interact with them, I was in Kerala in a house, and they very proudly said, Vivekananda had visited our neighbors. He was in this very street. So imagine if you go to Kurukshetra, if you go to Vrindavan, if you go to Ayodhya, that was the very land where Lord Krishna danced for ages. When you go to these different Tirtha Kshetras, that was the very route, that was the very temple wherein great masters have sat down, worshipped. When you go to Kedarnath, Badrinath, that was a very place wherein different masters who have performed puja to that idol. Now imagine when somebody gives you a pen. Somebody whom you like, adore, have a high value to opinion about, gives you a pen. Why even a pen? Your beloved gives you a flower. Because you are a fool, flower. And that is treasured in the book. And whenever you look at it, tab diya tha. You treasure it because it reminds you of something sweet inside. Because of your liking, you can relate to that example. But if it is the expansion of the Lord, does it give me, when I interact with it, does it give me that sense of divinity within? Am I connecting with it? If it is not connecting, any kind of divinity inside, the way I am looking at it is wrong. There is no imperfection in the Lord's world. Imperfection is in the vision with which I am looking at the world. If you are having your two fingers like this, I should be happy because my audience is doubled. Try, you do like this, what will happen? Everything looks distorted. And you say, hey, ठीक से बैठो. No, हाथ निकालो. Correct your vision. The one who is highly intoxicated. And his friend comes to drop him off. So he takes the keys out. He says, "Darwaja ko pakad, hil raha hai bahut." He says, "The door is moving. I am not able to put my key into the lock. Hold the door." What is shaking is not the door, is your vision here. So he explains each one of these 7 khanda and the Dashavarsha. Having explained these 7 khanda and Dashavarsha, like one of which is the Bharatavarsha. What is the greatness of Bharatavarsha? He says, Bharatavarsha, Swayam Nara Narayana are the, Narayana is the deity who is in Bharatavarsha. Where does he live? It is called Badrikashrama and the place is called Badrinath. There are 2 mountains in between whom Alkananda flows. Actually it is Alkananda who flows. The other side where the Narayana temple is called Narayana Parvata, and the Parvata that we normally get onto and travel across is the Nara Parvata. And between this Nara and Narayana, here they have taken many forms. One of the recent forms that is talked about is Arjuna and Krishna. The Lord was Krishna and the Jiva who is meditating on the Lord is Arjuna. Under the guidance of such Narayana, who is his immediate publicity agent? Pracharak. Who is his immediate Pracharak? He is Swayam Narada. See, Narayana and Narayana's agent is Narada. And what do they give you? Nara. When you do not get it, where do you exist? Naraka. If you look at the words, Narayana, Narada, Nara or Nara and Naraka. Who has to put the effort? Nara. So the root word is the same one. What does Nara mean? Nara mean? Nara means knowledge. The abode, Ayana. Ayana, the abode of knowledge is Narayana. Who guides you towards that is Narada. Naram dadati yaha saha. The one who gives you that knowledge is Narada. Who has to put the effort? Nara, human beings. Who have that reflection in them. There is like a burning desire to be happy, and the day you will be happy is when you reach that abode of knowledge within. And who gives us? Narada gives. Until then we are miserable. That is called Naraka. Not only that we are miserable, we effectively contaminate any situation, person, being, thing with our own miseries. Don't we? Anywhere we go. The moment you know that the other side, they have a little soft corner for you. शुरू करो अपना. पता है आज क्या हुआ? Today was my worst day. How many times have you not said it in your lifetime? That today is my worst day. It doesn't stop there. That worseness has to continue. It has to go to somebody. It has to burden somebody. It has to be given to somebody. Because I am living in Naraka. Naraka is very contaminating. And the upaya to get out of it. They say, even with Arthanada, with lot of anticipation, when you call for the Lord is waiting to really change your vision. See, in our lives, the best thing that can happen if our vision changes. Oh Lord, give me that vision with which I can perceive, experience the world that I have to experience without the world allowing to disturb me. Let me go through the experiences. I don't want you to bless me with extra add-ons. You know, when the package comes, it comes with a default thing. And because that package is not sufficient, we buy in add-ons. Right? So whenever we go and pray, what are we praying for? Lord, whatever you have given us is not sufficient. Give me some more add-ons. Give me more, give me more. Shancha me, prayascha me. I am not satisfied, give me more. I think you can use it as a rap song. Give me more as the bass line. I should meet a DJ. But other desires, I tell you. Lord has given us already sufficient. So what is it that we can pray of this Lord? Lord, give me that vision with which I can see through the experience without getting disturbed, distracted. If at all we have to ask anything of the Lord. With that arthanada, with that anticipation when you even call, He still answers to change that vision. So of this Bharata Varsha, wherein they have Vedhanusthana, where they have Varnashrama Dharma, where they are Karma Yogis, where they are expected to do the Karma, and based on the Karma is the Karma Phala and the Punya Papa, based on which their transmigration from one Janma to the other things happen. Such Bharata Varsha, there have been great masters to have whose darshan the Lord comes, visits now and then. What a great place, right? Now imagine if you are living in a nice locality, neighborhood, and in your neighborhood, down the lane, that exclusive house that is there is of a star, sports star, actor, actress, whatever, a star living there. And there are others who come to visit them. And then you tell people, oh, the other day I saw bush. I also see bushes. No, that bush. Where? Right in front of my house. He had come to visit him and I saw him. Getting associated with the mortals, we feel so, thrilling. Imagine that Bhubhaga wherein the Mahatmas were staying and the Lord comes to visit them. May I come in, please? Excuse me. ठीक है, आ जाओ. The Mahatmas are not like that. I am just portraying it in that way. Such Bharata Varsha. After having explained, because Bharata Varsha's explanation is given in detail in this 19th one. Then he says, let me give you in brief account as to what are the different dvipas, what do they contain. They say the Plaksha Dvipa, this is in the 20th chapter, Plaksha Dvipa, which is twice the size of Jambu Dvipa. And they say it is covered, surrounded by four different kinds of oceans. Four different kinds of oceans which are made of Ikshurasa, sugarcane juice. Sugarcane juice is the ocean, don't go check it now. It will be salty. This, when they talk about it, it is in the subtler realm, in that Dvipa, is when you have the Ikshurasa. And my personal note, do not drink more than 2 glasses of Ikshurasa. Literally, I drank almost like 4 glasses of it. It's only way later that I understood it was because of the sugarcane juice. You know, when sugarcane juice putrefies, what happens to that? थोड़ा सा नशा आ जाता है. When you drink too much of it, it really becomes a little intoxicating for a while. At least your head starts spinning. Though not intoxicating, head starts spinning. That is the effect of it. So this is in the subtler level. In this Plaksha Dvipa, Hiranyagni, who is the son of Priyavrata, Hiranyagni lives there, who is worshipped there, and the Priyavrata son, who is Idmajihva, lives here. What did he do? He divided that Plaksha Dvipa into 7 parts and gave it to his 7 sons, and then he withdrew into his meditative practices. And here they have 7 different mountains and 7 rivers, 7 mountain ranges and 7 rivers. And the rivers' names are also given and the mountain ranges are also given. And the next one is called the Shamla Dvipa. Shamla Dvipa is 4 times, no, it is twice the Plaksha Dvipa. Now I am thinking, what strategic way that Pruthu must have gone in his chariot to divide Jambu Dvipa, Plaksha Dvipa and the Shamala Dvipa in such proportionate way that each one is double the other one. Kya calculation kiya hoga? So the Plaksha Dvipa is, no, the Shalma Dvipa is twice the Plaksha Dvipa. And here Garuda lives here. And Yajnabahu, Priyavrata's son, was the first king who ruled, who also had 7 sons, who gave his property, the kingdom, divided to these 7 sons equally. And even in this particular Dvipa, there are 7 mountain ranges and 7 rivers. Then the 4th one, see, Bharatvarsha is done, Plaksha, after that Shalma, Shalmali or Shalma. Then the 4th one is the Kushadvipa. Kushadvipa is again twice the Shalmali Dvipa, and it was ruled by Hiranyareta, who was the king of that particular Dvipa, who also had 7 sons, who divided the whole kingdom into 7 parts, gave it to his 7 sons. And here also 7 different kinds of mountain ranges and 7 rivers. Strange. Now the next one is Krauncha Dvipa. Now this you can go and verify. Krauncha Dvipa is the North American continent. They say here also there are 7 mountain ranges and 7 rivers. Probably when you are counting the rivers, just because you are living in Dallas, don't count Trinity River. seven perennial rivers which have a source ends into the river, ends into the ocean. That should be the calculation. And this Krauncha-dvipa is twice the earlier one, which is the Kusha-dvipa. After the Krauncha-dvipa is the Shaka-dvipa, wherein Medhatiti is the Adhipati, and here also they have 7 mountains, 7 rivers divided to 7 suns. After the Shaka-dvipa is the Pushkara-dvipa, wherein it is said Brahmaji lotus, it looks similar to Brahmaji's lotus. Those lotuses grow in that land. And here, in this dvipa, there is this Manasa Parvata. And in this Parvata is all the Indra and other devatas who have their Vimana. It seems like a docking station for all these flights, this particular dvipa. In this Pushkara dvipa, Loka Aloka Parvata, this is the Parvata that is very famous, around which there are all these great Indradi devatas who go for a walk, evening walk. They have a evening strolling, and people take their pets normally. So they go out for a walk there. Then he says at the very end, between all these different lokas, different world of experiences, centrally is located the in different dimensions. When you look at it, the central focal point for this entire universe is the sun. He is the center of attention actually. And this Surya Bhagavan, his rays are the ones which enlive these parallel universes. All these universes have the sun as the central focal point. And if we can find the length and breadth of this particular universe, twice this would be the next one. And that is how seems to be the Lord's equation, and is also mentioned in here. So in this universe, there's a couple of things which have been stated, which I only take as the virtue of credit, as it is said in Bhagavat and said by the Mahatmas. So as there is this tur dal and the moong dal, and they all have split, you can split them into 2 parts. Similarly, the universe is also, the parallel universes, like they can be split into 2. There is one upper part and one lower part. In between them is the Bhumandala. Bhumandala, this particular galaxy wherein you have the Earth with the other planetary movements. There is a little difference between the 9 planetary systems, or how many are they now? Okay, officially there are 8. 8 planets of the science and the 9 planetary systems of the Hindu culture, or the Sanatana Dharma, when they have 9. What are they? They are different. Even Chandra is considered as a graha, Navagrahas. Chandra is one of the graha. Chandra is supposed to be a satellite and not a planet. And according to the science, there are differences. Anyway, not going into those differences. So in between is the earth, and above there are different lokas, and below there are different lokas. Now what are these above and below lokas? Wherein the central pivotal point is the sun. And then Raja Parikshit ji says, for all these different suns and different movements in the universes, there is one sun. He says he has a lot of job to do. He has to scatter his rays. The kind of painting, the picture that is given here is as though that he has bag full of rays, and he goes around all these places sprinkling them. In fact, he doesn't do it. His glory is so vast that Aruna stands in front of this sun's chariot, running in front of it, and spreading the sun's rays. So Aruna is the personal secretary, assistant of Lord Sun, who is given this job, who sprinkles the rays of sun. Arunodaya, as it is called, the sun, the first rays that comes are the Arunodaya. So this sun, it seems in the entire galaxy, he goes around dispelling darkness in all these places. Whether it is in Dhruva Mandala, whether it is Sumeru, Meru Mandala, different kinds of these lokas all over, he is the one, sole one who dispels darkness. Now how does he travel? He travels, and his travelling is of a Vichitra Gati. Surya Narayana, he has 12 different forms, and he lives in the middle, and then there are 12 different, when he takes each form, there are 12 different masa, months that get formed. Because of this formation of months, each month gets divided into two parts with the placement of moon and its movement around the movement of the earth, both together going around the sun. Now, I can claim, was it Galileo who found it? As the science claims, right? If I can prove that Bhagavat is way beyond, way before, this 22nd chapter is enough a proof to say what kind of depth the science had then. So it is proved here, saying that there are two halves based on the movement of the moon around the earth, both of which move around the sun. What a clear analysis. Science can be challenged by the knowledge. Only thing is, it is in Sanskrit. You will have to understand the Sanskrit and then decipher it. These two halves of the sun's moon's movement are called the Paksha. One is called the Krishna Paksha, the other one is called the Shukla Paksha. Now those of you who are interested in the Jataka Chakra, horoscopes. The horoscopes, what are the kinds of movements of sun? It based on the movements of sun into different rashis is how you start. So it is said that just around 2 plus nakshatra constellations, when the sun moves, it is called one rashi. There are different kinds of rashis, and normally what you see in the you have your horoscopes that you are born in from this to this month, the Aries to whatever is the last one, 12th one, the zodiac sign. That is one way of looking at the horoscope. The other way of looking at it is with the moon also included in the chart wherein the calculations are made. So there they say that when the sun moves from almost like 2.5 constellations, it makes one rashi. When he makes 6 such rashis, it is called one ayana. Ayana, Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, 6 months. Ayana is a 6 months period. And when it completes 2 such ayana, it makes one samvatsara. And there is a lot of difference between the movement of sun and the moon. What is the difference? The moon is putting more effort than the sun. I had to really research into that statement when they made it. One basic thing grossly when we look at it, the moment it clicks, is the sun's light, the moon's light is supposed to be very tender, very loving, That's why they call it moonlight dinners. जो कुछ भी डालो खिला दो, पता ही नहीं चले. No, it is supposed to be very romantic. I agree. Moonlight dinners. It is very tender. So there you can see that does it have a light of its own, light source of its own? No. All that it does is reflect the sun's light. How is sun's light? Very harsh, very glowing, very strong it is. So it transforms this sun's rays into glowing, soothing rays of moon. So it has to put double the effort. If it is just had to reflect like a mirror, no effort. All that it had to do is hold its mirrors on and it just has to reflect. But the moon reflects it by transforming the light. In the Ayurveda books it is written that the moon's rays are Annamaya and Amrutamaya. They are the ones which nourish the plants. There have been lot of research done on this, wherein it is said that the moon's rays has a different kind of nourishment that the plants get, wherein the plants start gathering a lot of medicinal values, and that is what the Ayurveda claims, and that is Amrutamaya. Then from each one of these, there are these 12 phases, 12 forms that the sun takes. Each one is called a house. Each one is called a house, wherein depending on the movement of different stars, different constellations, different rashis, each one of these graha gets housed, which is connected to the day, time that you were born. Based on that, your horoscope movements are indicated. I am just giving a brief introduction into horoscope and the science that it is. It cannot be just brushed aside. The only thing that I would like to add there is, anybody who knows mathematics very well, is keen in mathematics, can do these calculations. Different movements, different kinds of calculations that go into the horoscope making. Just calculation part, most of us can do it. The harder part in it is when you have to interpret the calculations. The calculations lead up to certain conclusions. Yeah, they are mathematical numbers. What or how do I interpret those mathematical conclusions is where is the art or the skill of the person who reads the horoscope or makes the horoscope, for which you need to have much more intuitive knowledge than just mere knowing numbers. So imagine they can tell you what exactly happens, when it happens, and they say, I mean, for example, I can tell you one particular example, that Shukra is just behind Surya. And whenever Buddha was also like 2-3 houses here and there from Surya. Whenever there is a Viyoga, separation of this beyond 2.5-3 houses, then it is called Anavrishti. Anavrishti, famine, lot of calamities, natural disasters on a huge scale in that particular place. So based on these calculations, people had predicted about the tsunami. They said there will be a disastrous water calamity. Water will be the cause for calamity. Some they say it is fire. I think when I was looking back in when I had the craze for going through horoscopes, the day I took this Diksha, I said never again into horoscopes. Because anybody whom I come across, because you know the behavioral patterns, you know their tendencies, And you have this horoscope also, they start calculating with their birth and date, and okay, this fellow is acting, reacting because of this in this graha, and it would just consume every moment of living daylights. So I said, and give it up totally, and never ever again looked back at it. So when you go into this horoscopes, I was researching, I think it was in 72, it was said that there will be a calamity because of fire. And the fire that it was caused, it is called the Badavanala. Badavanala, the fire in the ocean. Because of the rupturing, because of so much of intensity that the whirlpools or the wind's speed gather up, that the rupture between water molecules generates heat. And it creates fire. Can you imagine water creating fire? Go do a research on it. They said it was fire and it came through the water. Strange, but true. Now this is not real, please believe it or not. So all these can be predicted through the movement of the sun and the moon, which are very precise predictions. So now after this, never ever ask me again, Swamiji, what is your opinion on horoscopes? It is pretty good science, but your willpower is stronger than that science, wherein you can change the course of your life's direction based on your free will. Anyways, here what we are talking is not about the horoscope, but about the movements of these different rashis, which can also give you a little glimpse on the horoscope process. Now, having given it that in the 22nd and the 23rd chapter, Shukadev ji says, below Surya is Rahu, below the Rahu is the Chandramandala, below that is the place wherein there is this sky, the stratosphere and the atmosphere starts, wherein all these Pakshi and the Pashu can fly to the farthest end that they can fly, is the place wherein you get the maximum oxygen, the last zone wherein you get oxygen, beyond which you cannot. That is called the Antariksha. Antariksha, the inner space. And the outer space is called the, what is space called? Suddenly blanked out. It is called the Akasha. The outer space is called the Akasha. The inner space where there is a movement of air is called the Antariksha. Now below this Prithvi, there are Atala, Sutala, Vitala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. Tala, that's what you heard, right? Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Atala, Sutala, Vitala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. So there are 7 different layers downstairs. So if you can, somebody very beautifully explained this once to me. You know, in India you get this carriage boxes, wherein you carry different kinds of items. So the lowest one is the bigger one, wherein you carry normally the rice. And the rest of them are the different delicacies that are prepared. Those which have lot of liquid in it goes on the topmost. So imagine the cosmos to be a 14-layered one, wherein Earth, Bhumandala is the middle one. 7 up, 7 down. 7 up. And you feel down because you have not had 7 up. So it is 7 down. So each one of these loka, there are lokapatis, people who rule. One of the rulers of these lokapatis is Raja Bali also. When in Vamana Avatara, see, Raja Bali's drishti is so great and pavitra. Did you know who is the sentinel for Raja Bali, for his house? Mahavishnu in the form of Vamana is the sentinel for Bali. He says, I will be your Rakshaka whole life. In one of the Samhitas, reading through, it is said that Ravana once attacked on Vitala. Vitala is a place where this Bali, Raja Bali lives. So when Ravana attacked, Vamana with his left big toe, he was sleeping it seems, and he saw Ravana coming, and with his left big toe, he kicked him. When he kicked him from there, without a parachute, he landed in Lanka. What a kicking aim. And he never came back to Vitala. That is how Lord Narayana is protecting Bali. It is not in punishing him. So much in awe of him that he said, please take care of Vitala for me. Now don't consider this that the Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Patala are something which is very dark and has lot of bad things happening. No, each one has its own specific nature, and each one of us doing our own karmas with different kinds of results, we reach there. See, our karmas is like for applying the visa for different countries. With how many ever kinds of karma that we get, that kind of visa we get, and we are transported to that country. How long do you live in that country? As long as I-94 allows you to stay. And then the moment your visa is done, what happens to you then? En route Naraka or Swarga, you are kicked back into your native country. You are kicked back into your native country. How long? For a duration of period wherein you again apply for different visas through your karma. In different world. So similarly is this Rasatala and all the other things. Other than this, there is something else also interesting. Wherein, in between, Parikshit asks, O Maharaj, why is it that if the Lord is one, that He has created such a variety of universe, cosmos, couldn't He have just created one plain little world? You see, the Lord wanted it plain, wanted to keep it very straight. But what happens is, when we, with our own different vasanas, when we perform different karma, in order to yield that kind of result, different segments of creation, He had to plan ahead of time and create them. So that when you do such karma, you land up there. So that is why you find such variety in this world. Now based on what you do is what you get. So now you got this answer for your question. Is there anything else that you want to ask? Probably he should not have asked that question to Parikshit. Because Parikshit says, what happens when you do a wrong karma? What is a wrong karma? He says, that karma because of which, or that karma which is asked by the Shastras, which are not to be performed by a human being, depending on Varna, Ashrama, Dharma. Like, do you know what is the kind of yajna that was done by Dasharatha to get Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna? It is called Putra Kameshti Yaga. I am disqualified for performing that Putra Kameshti Yaga. A Grihastha alone has to perform that Putra Kameshti. And I am a Brahmachari. They'll kick me. Because you need to have a wife to sit beside you while you are performing that Putra Kameshti Yaga. Similarly, there are other rules and regulations that go along with your varna, ashrama, as to what kind of dharma has to be followed. When we do dharma viruddha, that which is prescribed we do against it. Like, let me take the most simple thing. Since you live in this body, when you wake up in the morning, clean it up. What happens if I don't do? It will have its repercussions, right? You will be walking, talking, moving, human repellent. You know, mosquito repellent, bug repellent. You will be a human repellent. That is called the pratyavaya dosha. And because of such dosha, because of such sin of omission or commission, that which we had to perform, we did not perform. That which we are not to perform, we end up performing. And here there is one beautiful example that comes. The Guru says, it seems, you know, don't go there. And the Sishya goes there in a double pace. It is because of the vasana strength that is so strong that even though you want to avoid, you cannot avoid. All that you can do is use that vasana for a higher cause, wherein it benefits the people and you can offer it to a higher altar and not making it your selfish one. But when you do either the sin of omission or commission, we get different kinds of naraka. What are these naraka? I have been telling you that I love this chapter. 28, 28 matlab 28, right? Okay, 28 kinds of naraka which are most important. Don't worry, there are only 2-3 minutes left, so I am not going to scare you much. I'd love to, but I am not. Tamisra, Andha Tamisra, Raurava, Maharaurava, Kumbhipaka. These are couple of names of these 28 most important naraka. Now what are the results? What do you do when you, and how do you reach to these naraka? A brief little glimpse. Now as I said, I don't want to scare you. Those who torture others' children, others' property, others' wife, others' livestock, they go to Tamisra. Tamisra, what happens in this naraka? You don't get food to eat, you don't get water to drink, but you get danda to eat. They will be whipped thoroughly, day in and day out. And in these naraka, you will not be given this kind of a body. You will be given a body wherein it goes through all these pains. It suffers through all the pains. But yet, the body does not perish until you go through the experience. That is called the Yatanamaya Deha. Maja hai na? That is Tamisra. What is Andha Tamisra? When this kind of naraka wherein you are not honest in relationships. When the wife is not honest with the husband is not honest with the wife, they are put into such naraka. And what happens there? Buddhi drishti nashtaha. Your buddhi and drishti are blocked temporarily. And then different kinds of yatanas are given, different kinds of pains are given. That is called Andha Tamisra. And for the general masses like us all, who have lot of possessions like this is mine and dare you touch mine, I'll break you, even try touch it, and lot of hoarding, lot of possessions for such ones. It is called the Raurava Naraka. And why is it called Raurava Naraka? There are certain ruru insects which keep sucking energy out of you. You don't have anything to feed you, but the existing energy is being constantly drained. And that is the punishment. Badhiya, badhiya. Then, those who have total identification with their body, who constantly engage themselves in nothing better than feeding this body, training this body, tuning this body, toning this body, coloring this body, painting this body. No, I'm not kidding. They say, you go into the spas wherein they spray tan color. Am I wrong? They are like that, right? Don't ask me how do we know so many. Now that I have a permanent address, I get lot of junk mail. Uddhav, tanned glow, glorifies you. With the personalized letters that they come on your name. What else can you tan here? So they show how, different diagrams, how it can be sprayed top to bottom. And just a couple of minutes and you dry out and you go with a glowing body. Such people go to Maharaurava. Maharaurava, those people, their flesh is plucked one nerve after the other and eaten by these birds there. Interesting, huh? This is interesting. Those of you who eat non-vegetarian diet. अरे इस पीस को ना जल्दी वीडियो बुला के गूगल पे लगा. Those of you who eat non-vegetarian diet, what happens to you? You go to Kumbhipaka Naraka. What is Kumbhipaka Naraka? This is my favorite, did I not tell you? I'll explain it also. Kumbha means a big frying pan with sizzling hot oil which has gone beyond boiling temperature. This Yatanamaya Deha is taken, it's all automated. Imagine a hook like a kind of thing. It takes you, dips you into something which is first, creates a lot of pain, inflicts a lot of pain. And then that which has been coated around you to inflict pain, not to lose away when you are put in that oil, there you are covered with something that protects it. And then you are dropped into that boiling oil. And then there are these people there who have been appointed by Yama. What do? They have long hot rods with which they force you down to be not to escape out of that boiling environment. How long? As long as you are a deep brown red color. Like you make your mirchi bhaji, pakoda, same thing. What do you do for your mirchi bhaji? You cut, fill it in with masala. So that it doesn't come out, you put it in basin. And then, for those of you who eat non-vegetarian food, including egg, मजा आया. When you do a sinful act, when you do a wrongful act, when you do a deceitful act, when you do a crooked thing, for each one of this there is a naraka. This is another thing. This naraka Please listen to it carefully. This will be one of the last narkas that I'll explain. Supposing a guest, Athithi Abhyagati. Athithi, the one who comes into your house without prior information. He is Athithi. And the one who comes with an RSVP is an Abhyagati, who is already informed you about their visit. Such one is called an Abhyagati. Now when they come to your house, anybody when they come to your house, invited, uninvited, treat them graciously. Should not mistreat them in whatsoever condition. At least feed them something. That is why even today, back in India, whatever time of day or night that you arrive in somebody's house, it's a chai pani piyoge? Like to have something. Hospitality is something that is ingrained in our custom. Why? You should never ever be in a condition wherein you don't treat your Athithi or Abhyagati in a wrong way. It so happened once that there was this master who had gone with his friends, not friends, other disciples I should say. And one of his disciples had said, the place that you are visiting, I have my friend. So I'll inform that person. So you can go there and stay. Whatever was the miscommunication, the person did not inform or this person did not like or whatever it was, this master with 5-6 of his disciples reached at his house. And that person got so mad at them, abused them and knocked them out of the house. So this master sat down at the outside, in the old housing system wherein even when you come outside the compound, there are some seats kind of a thing wherein you can, near the steps, wherein you can sit. So he sat there for half an hour. Then he called one of the disciples and said, go get a glass of water. He said, he just knocked you out and you still want a glass of water? He said, he is a grihastha. And he probably does not know that an Abhyagati who is insulted, what kind of naraka that he will get. And I am a sadhu because of whom he should not get a naraka. So go get some water, even if he doesn't want to give, go get some water from the well. Let me drink it and then move forward. I have made it a point when I go to houses, there is only a certain limit of stomach that you have. You cannot keep eating and eating and eating. Then at least take a sip of water. Even you, when you go to others' houses, one sip of water doesn't hurt. It is only in the enemy's house that you do not even sip a glass of water. And that was the indication even in the Kshatriya families, that when you don't partake, you are saying that I am your enemy. Let's meet in the battlefield. So such are the narakas that are there. Now again, do not consider that this naraka is something which is bad. Why? It is a cleansing process. Do you think your washing machine is bad? Then why does every house have it? My answer to that would be the community one really stinks. So it is better to have one at home. See, our own physical body, nourished by the food that we eat, the hair looks dark, black, the eyes look so bright, the skin looks so tender, I should say. I don't know how to describe skin. glowing. Okay. And those of us who put lot of effort in maintaining this shape, you know, a V-shaped body with a six-pack there. That is how Bhima is described in Mahabharata. He is a Vrukodaraha. Vrukodaraha, whose stomach, in spite of that much eating, is not that big. It is thin and has a Vishala Bahu. Vishala Bahu, wide-chested. A beautiful description of him. When you go one layer behind this beautiful body, I was speaking to, first time when I had come, many streams of doctors that you come across. So I asked this doctor, what do you do? He said, I am a GI. You know what is a GI? Gastro, whatever it is. I still find it hard to pronounce it. So I said, what do you do? He put it very funnily. He said, I deal with the guts and the butts. Now when you look at, see, beauty is just skin deep. Ugliness is bone marrow deep. There's so much of ugliness inside, but isn't still a part of mine? Similarly, in this Vishwa, wherein it is nothing but expansion of Narayana, he has a cleansing department with different kinds of bleaches, different kinds of cleansing processes, which is called Naraka, which is a part of Narayana. And it is not to be considered it is some Satan who is sitting there in the hell, who is the boss of the Naraka, trying to instigate things against Narayana. There is nobody, there is only Narayana's expansion alone. So this is the 5th canto that we, with the grace of the Lord, successfully complete and conclude. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Please, one after the other, you can come and take this beautiful Narayana back home as your prasad.